Hey guys, Justin here again. We're going to be doing more algorithms on Freecodecamp. It's freecodecamp.org, and the one we are looking at today under intermediate algorithm scripting is Spinal tap case. And this is one that I really enjoy. Let's read the problem and then we'll try to solve it together. Convert a string to spinal case. Spinal case is all lowercase words joined by dashes, like this one right here. Let's look at a couple of examples. So this is a spinal tap, returns the lowercase separated by hyphens. When words are separated by camel cases like this, they also become hyphenated and lowercased. Underscores become hyphenated, and hyphens stay as hyphens. And you could also have mixtures of them, whether it be camel case or snake case or whatever, and they will all be hyphens, separated by hyphens. So this is a fairly challenging one. There's more than one way to do this. Let me show you guys how I would do it in multiple methods, multiple ways. Let's copy this over here. Erase this. So let's set up some ground rules for how we're going to do this. What are some rules that this must follow? Rule number one, I would say, must be all lowercase. In our output, we should never have an uppercase character. Two, I would say underscores and spaces become hyphens. But that's not the only rule. And the third rule, in my opinion, is the hardest. Words capital case always determines the start of a new word, but not always. What I mean by that is, if you have a capital case somewhere, that always says that this is a start of a new word. But all words doesn't always start with a capital case. For example, this one is lowercase t, yet it's still a new word. So this is probably the hardest rule that we have to make this obey. So what we are going to do is I'm first going to separate these strings into the different words. So this one, I want to have an array of strings that is, this is spinal tap. Something like this. And I want in this array that I'm going to build, I want every character to be a lowercase 2. So what I want from the first example is an array with 4 strings like so. And in order to do this, we have to loop through our string. So let's do that. What I'm going to do is we could use a traditional for loop here, where we do like let I equal 0 and blah, blah, blah. But I don't like doing that, and not constant. It should be a for. I'm going to do a for of loop. So we'll say for const C, for short for character, of string. So C will represent every single character in our string. It's much cleaner to do it this way, a for of loop, than a traditional for loop. And we're going to check each characters, and we have to have an array and populate the array with the different words in our string. So we first have to initialize an empty array here, which I will call words. This we will fill up slowly with the different words in our string. And also, for the various word, we have to build this up until it becomes a word. So we start with T, we build up a string until it becomes a word, and when we see the next line is a delimiter, whether it be an underscore or a space or whatever, we put this word into here, into the words array. So I need another string variable, which I will call a word, and we will start it off as an empty string. So let's take care of the easy stuff too. So this we will implement later. Let's do this. Rule number 2, underscores and spaces has to become hyphen. So underscore and spaces determine a new word. So let's do this. If our current character that we're looping over is either equal to a triple equals a string underscore, or C is equal to a space, then we know that we are about to begin a new word. So for example, if this was our example, we will be at this character here, and then we know we are about to start a new word. So this is what we'll do. I'm assuming if we coded this correctly, that our word variable here, the string, has been already populated with a lowercase version of this. So I'm just gonna push the words array with that word that we have just built, like so. And after that, we know we have to reset the word to an empty string. However, it's complaining to us because we use a const variable here. We're gonna redefine this, so we're gonna use the keyword let. And what do we do with this character that is either a hyphen or underscore or a space? We don't do anything with it. So we just stay put like that. Another condition, now this is the hard part. Capital K is always determine the start of a new word, but not always. Else if, to determine if the C variable, the character, is in uppercase or not, we can do this. It is in uppercase if it fulfills this criteria. If C is greater or equal to A, the capital A, and is less than or equal to the capital Z. If it's in between these two, then we know it's gonna be an uppercase character, because each character value has a number associated with it, and pretty much the numbers go up starting from capital A all the way to Z. All the numbers in between there is called an ASCII number. All those numbers are all capital letters. So if this is the case, now we have a couple options. This could be the case when our word is empty, such as if we were looping over this loop and we got to this character, the first character, then our word is empty. If that's the case, and word.length is empty, is equal to 0, or for short, we could just do not word.length. That's the same thing as equal to 0. Then we know we are about to start a new word. So what we do is we add on to the word. Well, word is empty, so we don't need to add on to it. I was going to do this plus equals, but we don't need to do that because it's empty anyway. So we'll just assign it to our character, but in lowercase, because we want everything that goes into here be lowercase already. And then that's it. We have another condition. It's the same condition except the word.length exists, meaning this is greater than 0. There is some word that's already filled here. Let me erase that because this is the same thing as saying greater than 0. So when will this happen? When will we have an uppercase where our word is not empty? That wouldn't ever happen in this example. However, in this example, let me bring this over here too. In this example, it will happen once we get to this character, because then our word is this, and the current character that we are on is this, is the capital I. So in this case, what do? Well, we know that our word, which has already been built up, in our example, it will be in the lowercase this. So we could just push that into our words array, words.push word, reset the word like so, and then we could add on to our word a lowercase version of our current character. So instead of resetting it first and then setting it, we could just do word is going to be our current character, but to lowercase. So in our example, let's say we were here at this capital I. Until we got to this capital I, we were just constantly putting this into our array. and then we got to I, we are putting this, which is currently contained in this word variable. We pushed it to these words here, and then we reassigned this word variable with the lowercase I. And so we have 3 conditions so far. If underscore or space, we do this. If it's a capital letter and our word is empty, then we just add it to lowercase. Or if it's capital letter and we already have a word that's populated here, then we push that to our words and start a new word. Otherwise, it's just a regular letter, so we just push onto, we add onto our current word. We could put 2 lowercase here, but we already know it's not going to be lowercase because we've fulfilled all uppercase. I mean, it's not going to be uppercase because we fulfilled all uppercase criteria either here or here. So by the time the if-else condition gets down here, we know for sure that we're not dealing with an uppercase. So I could just add C like that without putting the 2 lowercase. All right, so if everything went to plan, our words should contain, for this example, it should contain this is Spinal Tap, and for this one too, the lowercase version of it. Now, it's not gonna work. Hopefully you guys will understand what is going on. Not string, let's console log words. Let's see what happens. We should get a 2 console log here because we're calling spinal case twice, one with this and one with this. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Notice for both examples, we get only this is spinal. We don't get the tap one. And the reason is the tap one is still contained in this word. But since we got to the end of the loop, it didn't know what to do with it. So what we have to do is if after our for loop, our word, there is still something in our word variable here, then we just add that to our words array. We could reset the word variable here by doing word equals empty, but it's unnecessary because we're not going to be using it anymore. So let's see if this fixes our problem. Yep, we get this is Spinal Tap. So we got the hard part out of the way. Now that we have a lowercase array of all the words in our string, we want to combine these by putting a hyphen in between them. So probably the easiest way to do this in JavaScript is to use a join method that array comes with. So the way that we do this is this const. Let me define a string variable. We'll call this spinal case because it is spinal case. And we will get our words array that we built up here, and we will join it. And essentially what join does is it gets an array, it combines it all into a string. Now, what we pass in here as an optional parameter is the delimiter. What are we joining it with? So if we just put an empty string like this, this will just become this is Spinal Tap without any spaces, but we want to join them with a hyphen in between. So that should work. And if we return our spinal case that we have just made, this should be the correct answer. Let me console log the result of these and see if we get the right answer. There we go. Spinal case. Again, I'm getting a yellow squiggly line here. It's because this is redundant. We have declared a variable and then right after that we return it. So why don't we just return it from the get-go instead of defining this variable like so. See if that works. Yep. Let's submit this. Before I show you guys some other ways to do this, let's make sure that it works. Yep, it works. Now I want to show you guys some other ways that we could possibly do this. The first way I thought about doing this was, let's see what we're doing here. We are essentially building up a word by adding it one at a time, and once it has become a word, we push it onto here. So my initial gut reaction to do this was, let me just, before I do this, let me comment this out. How I determined initially to do this was to use this method, string method called split. Words, let's assume, just for the sake of argument, that the problem that they wanted us to do was convert a regular sentence like so, separated by spaces only, so not this, only parts of this, only this part of this. Actually, we could do the whole thing here, and not this one. So things that separated by spaces, how are we supposed to convert that to Spinal case? And how I would do that is I would define words, the array like before, to be, first I would do get our string, convert to lowercase by using this method that just converts all the characters in our string to a lowercase, and then I would split it into an array, and the delimiter, the thing that I'm splitting it by, will be a space in my made-up example. And once we have split it, let's console log what that is. You see here, for our example here, it works just like before. And then later we could join it and then return it. But because we have words here and then we're just adding a method to it later, we could have just added this here, just chained it like so. And instead of defining a variable and then returning it immediately after, we could have just returned this whole part like so. However, this doesn't work in our case because spaces aren't the only ways to separate a word. We could also have underscores, and even harder than our underscores, we could have camel cases like so. So let's ignore this camel case for now. Let's see, what if the question was sentences that separated by either by spaces or underscore? We want to convert that to Spinal case. Then we would have to use this thing called a regex, a regular expression. We could, inside this split method here, we could either put a string here or a regular expression. A regular expression is pretty much pattern matches a string. And what we want it to match is we want it to match all spaces and all underscores. So I'm just gonna go to regex, Google regex, go to this first link, regex exr. And I already know this, so let me erase everything here. I'm gonna use an example here. This is where what it's gonna match, show us the examples. And I'm gonna grab this one here. No, this one here. What I want to match is either a underscore or a space. So do you see these parts that has been selected? This regex right here, with brackets determine match any character in a set. And the characters we want to match is either an underscore or a space. So instead of putting just a single space here, let's put a regex. And we always, for JavaScript, we put regexes in between these two forward dashes. And we're going to put brackets. We're going to say match either underscore or space. Let's see if that works. It should still work for this example. Yep, right here. Let's make sure it works for this example. Just put a console log around it. I'm going to comment that one out. And that works too. And this one, this one shouldn't work because here we have a camel case separation, but this one should also work. And is this the correct one? Yes, so this works too. So This is still not the correct answer, again, because we didn't consider this type of case, a camel case. Words that determined by separated by capital words. It's not even really separated by the capital words, because the capital word, the character is itself part of a word. So this is a bit more difficult to do. Let me explain more in depth about that, what I mean by that. So we can technically put another criteria here. We could tell JavaScript to match not only underscores and spaces, but also all uppercase characters. So the way that we would do that is we say match either this, or A to Z. So that would work too. See here, it's matching all underscores, all spaces, and all A to Z range. So we could just put here after the space A to Z. However, let's see what happens. I have all of these console logs commented out, so let's put these back in. And the one that I'm interested in is just the last one. And see what we get here. Well, nothing happened, and it's because we're telling it to split it by either underscore, space, or uppercase, but it's not working because we're converting it first to lowercase. So we have to get rid of this first. So let's ignore the lowercase criteria and just try this. And we get this nasty thing right here. This got rid of the I, got rid of the S, got rid of the T. So this split function here, it gets rid of whatever it has matched. It splits it at those points, but doesn't include the characters they split it with. So this poses a new problem. So to fix this nasty issue here, I'm gonna do something even more nasty, and forgive me, this becomes a little bit too convoluted. Since we already got the answer, you can skip this. Or if you're curious, you could stick around. So what I'm gonna do is I want to manipulate our string. I want to add a hyphen right before all of our uppercase characters. So what the hell do I mean by that? I mean, this one, I first want to go through the string and put a hyphen next to all my uppercase characters, like so. Unfortunately, although I don't want this, it will also put one here because that's an uppercase too. But if that poses a problem, we will fix that later somehow. So the way that I'm gonna do that is, let's get rid of this first. We don't need all this anymore. I'm gonna first split the string to individual characters, like so. And as a matter of fact, let's destructure. Let's take this out and see what that is equal to. Const will say split string. Let's see what that equals to. What is this equal to when we split it with an empty string? And if you look here, it is pretty much every single character in our string, including spaces if we were to have them. So the reason why I'm doing this is because arrays are easier to work with than strings, in my opinion. And after we have split them, we could just chain it and say map. I'm gonna map this. Map is another method of an array. What it does is transform each element into something else, whichever we choose. So a function goes inside the map function method. The input parameter is just the character that we're looping over. In our case, we'll just call it C. And we will say, if the character that we're looping over is an uppercase character, then we will prepend, a hyphen next to it. Kind of like what I showed you before with this example here. So we will say, and I'm going to use ternary operator here so that I could do it in one line. And also, I will use Regex that I've shown you guys before. So if we will say the regex. I won't use regex. We'll use just if conditions. I'll show you guys the regex after. So if C is greater or equal to capital A and C is less than or equal to capital Z, then we know it is in uppercase. If that condition is true, question mark here. And let me put this at a new line so that we have more room to work with. If that's true, then append, I'm going to use ES6 string interpolation, append a hyphen and put a C there, or just return the character like so. So let's see what that becomes. Console log split string. Notice here now, next to each of our uppercase characters, we have appended a hyphen. So now that we have done this, we could get rid of all the uppercase, not get rid of, but convert them all to a lowercase without doing any harm. So let me guys show you what I mean by that. We could just do, if this is the case, then I'm going to append a hyphen C, but 2 lowercase. Like so. Like so. So everything's lowercase now. And what I was explaining earlier, we could also do this using regex. We could do this. Regex variables are always inside 2-4 brackets. And we will say, this is our regex that we want to work with, all letters A to Z, and test to see if C fulfills that criteria. If it's true, that means it's an uppercase character. Otherwise, it's not an uppercase character. Let's see if that works. Yep. And in my opinion, especially if you're somewhat comfortable with regex, it's more readable, in my opinion. But some people hate regex, so it's a subjective thing. Now, why the hell did I do this? After prepending all these hyphens, we want to join it back. So we want to join it back. And in our case, we just want to join it back without adding anything in between. So let's see what that becomes then. Technically, we shouldn't call it a split string any longer, but whatever. Oh, and they put a comma in for us. That's not what we want. So as a matter of fact, the default behavior is it joins it back with the comma in between. But we just want an empty string in between. Like so. This is Spinal tab. So you can already tell that this is looking pretty good. So after we do that, all we gotta do is split it again. And we are gonna split it by, and let me explain why we have to split it before I do this. In this example, we don't have to split anything. As a matter of fact, this is the answer that they want. But what if our example was this, the underscore one? You see, this nasty thing happened here. What if it was this one, thing separated by spaces? Again, this nastiness happened. So we want to split it. Let's put spaces around this. Like so. Maybe I'll just keep that up here. And we are going to split it by either spaces or underscores like before, and then join those with hyphens. Let's see if that works. It kinda did, except where the places where we prepended the hyphens because of the capital letter, it added another one. So for example, this one, it added a hyphen before this and it added this space. It added a hyphen before this and added this space. That's not something that we want. So what we can do to rectify this nastiness here is we can split it not only in where there are underscores, not only where there are spaces, but also where there are hyphens that we have automatically generated. So the way that we will do that is another character we want to capture is the hyphens, like so. And if you look at this example, it captured the hyphen. However, let's think about what our string is after we join it. The string that we're dealing with in this example is going to be this. Before each uppercase character, that uppercase character will become a lowercase character and will have a hyphen next to it. So what we are dealing with is this, this space hyphen is space hyphen spinal space hyphen tab. This is the string that we are dealing with. So if we were to just naively do it this, it would also split it between this one and that one. So we will have an empty string in between here that will be split. So what we want to do is we want to tell, let me bring this over here. We want, notice here that these two are separated, these two blue are separated. We want to combine this into one. So we want to say split at both of them, meaning get rid of both of them. Don't put any words in between, just split it on both of them. And the way that we do that is just put a plus here. Now, do you see that this is a square now? It is no longer separated, meaning it's using both of these characters combined as a delimiter. I think that's how you spell it. That's how you pronounce it, I mean. And what does this plus do? Quantifier. Match one or more of the preceding token. So it matches one or more of these. Let's see if that works. Yes, and that does seem to work. Now let's see if that works for all of our examples, because we might have mistakes that we didn't account for. What is all this undefined going? Oh, it's because we're not returning anything. We just want to return this one here. Return split string. Again, it shouldn't be called a split string anymore, but whatever. It seemed to work almost, except it put a hyphen in the beginning of some of these words because of these guys here. And so the reason why that is happening is because it put a hyphen here, so it's again splitting it again. Let me guys show you what I mean by that after we have split it here. So here we will say that's a split string, and we will say return split string dot join. I'm just gonna separate that out for now. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want to console log what our array is after we split it. And to just show us which ones are the split strings, I'm gonna put that right before. So check this out. We have an empty string before these three here. And the reason for that is because it put a hyphen in between before that. And because we are telling it to split it at each of these conditions, we're splitting a string, an empty string here, like here, and then with this word, like so. So we need to get rid of these empty strings. Now, the way that we can do that is after we split it, it's still an array, right? We can filter the array to make sure that our word has a length. Otherwise, if it doesn't have a length, meaning if it's empty, it's gonna be filtered out of this filter. Let's see if that works. Yep, that seemed to do it, and all of our Spinal case seems to be correct. So we don't need this console log anymore, so we don't need to separate our method. We could just make it one like so. As a matter of fact, we don't even need to define this variable and then only to return it later. We could just leave it like this. Let's see if that works. It seems to work. As a matter of fact, if you're like me and you don't like function notation, but you like the arrow notations, we can convert it. Const spinal case gets a parameter, one parameter string, and because it's only one parameter, we could get rid of the parentheses and put arrows like so. Now, because technically this is all one statement, it's all quote unquote 1.9. We don't need these curly braces and this return. If we just have 1.9 like this, we could just replace it with that 1.9 and it'll return it automatically. Let's see if this works. Run the tests. There we go, it works. Thank you so much for joining me again on this algo. Today we did the Spinal tap case. Tomorrow we'll be doing the Pig Latin, so please subscribe and I'll see you guys tomorrow.